there's a lot of people talking about subject lines, and they're very important, right? It's the headline of your email. It's the reason people open it up. But there has to be a correlation between the subject line and your first line. So that first, they talked about in the good old days of advertising, David Ogilvy talked about how the headline was the most important part of an ad. 80 cents on every dollar you spend on the headline, but its only job is to get someone to read that first line. And the first line's only job is to get someone to read the second line, and so on and so forth. So there has to be some correlation between the two, and you can't just have a link baity type subject line like your house is on fire, because sure, that'll get a huge open rate, but as soon as someone sees you're talking about a business thing on line one, you've just upset them. You've just turned them off. So there needs to be a correlation of that subject line to first line, and you need to poke them in the eyes. I say it's great. Be emotional, that kind of push their emotional triggers, but make sure that emotional trigger is tied into kind of what you do.
Yeah, I like that. The other thing too to keep in mind with your subject line, I've seen some statistics out there. It shouldn't be longer than 7 lines. The shorter the better. But another thing that I see commonly with that first line in particular is that they go out and try to introduce themselves. And with that first line, that's the only thing that people are going to see on their phones and in their preview panes of their email clients. And so when you're already saying, we don't know each other, that email becomes so much easier to skip over, right? So again, like you were saying, your goal with that subject line and that first line is to get them to actually open the email. Okay, so some important statistics here just with regards to the subject line alone. 33% of email recipients open the email based on the subject line. 69% of recipients actually report spam based solely on the subject line. 40% of emails are opened on mobile first. And again, can only fit, 4 to 7 words max. But there's some little things you can do to increase your open rates here. Using the word you saw actually a 5% less than those without. So that will actually hurt your open rates if you have the word you in it. If you have the word free, some studies showed that a 10% increase in open rates could be had there. Obviously, when you're sending a cold email, you kind of have to be careful there. You don't want to come off spammy because you do risk that as well. Interestingly, emails with the subject line quick were opened 17% less than those without.
I think that's interesting too. I think that those traditional advertising, marketing types words, I think don't work well in subject lines, right? I think people see them as ads. It looks like ad copy. Quick, trials, all those kind of things, right?
Yep, agreed. This one was really notable, a 61.8% increase when using the word alert in the subject line. That was so dramatically different. The 61% increase is a huge number. The top 5 subject lines in a recent study by Contact Monkey all started with RE:. Thought that was interesting.
So can we just talk about that alert for a second? I think that's a perfect example of make sure it's correlated though, right? So this is like someone's going to hear that and say, oh, wow, I can almost double my opens by putting just the word alert in my subject line. And they're going to say alert, important information, and then they're going to open it up and it's going to be a pitch, right? And it's like that's a great way to lose somebody when you do that too. So that you've got to make sure there's actually some tie in between what that subject line is and what that first line is.
Yeah, definitely have to be careful there. The good news is, though, if you go with no subject line altogether, those were actually opened 8% more than those with a subject line. So worst case, just, don't use a subject line. And then obviously that becomes important for your first line to capture their attention, right? You want to make sure that you don't have, an empty subject line, but then you're like, hi, I'm so-and-so with XYZ company. That's for sure just going to get deleted. So,
how about a subject line with just RE:?
Yeah, there you go.
on email one.
Yeah, I've seen that. Don't do that. But
no, I'm joking. Yeah.
You could maybe experiment with the follow-up or something like that. But
number 2 is the email needs to be short. I think this goes on to the first thing, which is everyone's, even if they're not reading your emails on mobile, imagine they are, right? So if you imagine they're reading your email on mobile, short is good, white space is good, actually making it easy, formatted well, plain text, easy to see, easy to read, thinking on a small screen.
Actually have kind of a framework for this that I've called QVC, where you start your email off with some sort of a lead-in question versus your typical email, which I actually see a lot of sales experts recommend leading in with an introduction. Again, I just prefer to get to the point and try to capture their attention, so I will typically recommend leading in with a question. And then that follows kind of a 1 to 3 sentence max on your value prop. But again, your value prop should be focused on them. And so you want to kind of keep it benefits oriented, not necessarily feature oriented. And then the C being the close, which is generally another question. Your goal is to start a conversation. It's not to, have them sign up from your first email. You just want them to, go to that next step, right? So that in total, you should be looking at like 3 to 5 sentences.
So next is personalized, not just personalization. And just be clear on this. Personalization is using a merge tag, first name, last name, company name, whatever that merge tag is. And it's important. People are more likely to read it. It connects them, actually draws them back into the conversation when you're using their name or their company name. So using personalization is important, but the email needs to be personalized. When I say personalized, what I mean by that is it actually, you want an ideal scenario would be you put together a email sequence that worked for multiple people, but when they were reading it, it felt like it was written just for them. And the way to do that is to group people together that might have the same problems or in the same industry or have the same issues or have the same concerns or fears. And then so what happens is when you write that email, you're personalizing it for that audience, right? And so when they read it, they feel like you've written it just for them. So you might talk about their industry specifically in the email. You might talk about their position or title or what the common problems would be for them, whatever. What have you solved? Reverse engineer what problems you solve for them, and then talk about those problems specifically to them, their industry, their seniority, whatever that is. So personalizing that content for a group of a persona, ideal customer profile that looks similar. So when they read it, it feels like it's a personal email to them.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'll just have a quick thing here too. I've seen some success when you reference the person's name or their company name like multiple times. So oftentimes you'll see the email hi first name, and then that's all the personalization that there is in the email. I've seen more success when it's referenced again, maybe towards the end. So if you close out with like another question or something to try and get them to respond, just addressing them by name. Using their company name again there, can be helpful.
Yeah, I love your call to action being, first name, comma, ask your call to action, and for company, right? So, Justin, could you see this being a benefit to lead views, right? And that last call to action, because you're saying that feels very personal again. Then it's not just it's a mail merge field.
So the next one is all about them, not you. And so this is where most people go wrong, I feel like. It's very easy to go and talk about yourself, right? But ultimately what you want to do here is put that, again, I referenced this a little bit ago, but you basically you want to think about this as a benefit versus a feature. So, you might, if you're pitching SEO services, and this just comes to mind because I see these on a regular basis, you're not selling me link building and directory submissions and social bookmarking, right? You're selling me ultimately higher rankings so that I can drive more traffic and get more sales. And so that's kind of the focus you want to have with your email. You don't want to just bullet list all of the great features that your product or your service provides.
This is where people get the worst advice. I think most of the advice we see out there on the templates, on the cold email examples, everything, give you horrible advice. And they give you horrible advice at the part that hurts you the most, which is that first line. Don't intro, stop doing intros. Stop saying, I am from this company and we do this. Nobody cares. Your mother doesn't care, let alone somebody doesn't know you, right? And so this is the biggest, definitely don't waste your first line with it. right? So that first line is all about getting their attention and making them, you've got that, whatever that fabled time is, that 8 seconds, whatever it ends up being, for them to decide, am I deleting this? Am I going to mark it as spam, or am I actually going to read it? Right? And so, you want to get them to read it. And the easiest way to get them to delete it or to mark it as spam is talk all about yourself. Right? Hey, and so like aggressively look at your copy and say, how many times have I used the word I, me, us, we, right? And find a way to reverse that sentence and make it you, your company, all about them. It's got to be about them. So stop, just take the intro out. They don't care who you are or what you do. What they care about is, do you understand them? Do you understand the problems they have? And can you cut through the clutter and all the other 80 emails they've got from other people telling them all about themselves, right? So this is not a book cover where you're talking about who you are and what books you've written, right? How many awards you've won, how long your company's been in business, how many customers you have, right? This is all about, hey, in talking to other companies like you or talking to other business professionals like you, they tell us they have these problems A, B, and C. Right? And then that's your opportunity to show how well you understand your audience. Sure. So this one is always fun, and I see it a lot. Again, I think it's another area of bad advice that's out there, is you're asking someone to do something for you, and you've done nothing for them. This is someone who doesn't know who you are, and you're asking for a favor before you've earned the right to ask for a favor. Right? So asking someone to, at best, what it's showing is you're naive and asking for a favor you shouldn't be asked for. At worst, the way people can look at this is saying, wait a second, why would you come to me? Shouldn't you know who you want to talk to in the organization? So some examples of people like trying to ask for value before offering it was like, hey, can you direct me to the right person? Can you please pass this on to the person in your organization responsible for X? Hey, I think this might be this person. Is it correct? Hey, I think someone beneath you is this. Can you introduce me to someone else in your organization that's responsible for this area of responsibility? That's just ridiculous. Like, there was, I just don't see how you think you're going to have success in talking to a complete stranger, asking them for a favor, which is really your job. Like, you should figure out who the person to talk to is, right? And you should reach out to them.
Yeah, this obviously was a highly recommended tactic years ago, and I'm sure it worked out really well years ago, but that's just not something that's going to fly nowadays. So, this is something that's important, that you're not trying to get them to do anything other than respond to ideally a question. Right. Like, you're not, to me, I also see people recommend, trying to like book a time. Do you have 30 minutes? No, I don't have 30 minutes. Like, you've sent me this one email. It's, ideally, it's a few sentences, but, at the same time, like, to think that you're going to be able to just go and book a time as this first step is, it's insane to me. Your goal should just be to start that conversation and not have anything else for them to do, quite frankly.
Obvious red flags. Here's some obvious red flags when you open an email. Dear sir or madam, right? Or being overly apologetic, right? Oh, I'm sorry, I know I'm wasting your time, or hey, I'm sorry I'm bothering you, or hey, you don't know who I am. If you start with any of those, or if you have any of those in the copy of your email, you're just killing yourself. You're waving a red flag at someone, saying, hey, this is an email that I can delete or mark as spam. Right? So don't apologize for the email. Actually, make the email decent enough that you don't have to be apologized for it, right? So, I mean, if your copy is so bad you're apologizing, don't send it, right? I mean, like that should be the heuristic you have. If you feel so bad about what you've written, then don't send it. Write an email that actually has some value to it, an email that actually can stand on its own. And so don't raise those flags. That's a red flag. Another red flag is putting in things like, I talked about a little earlier, but your awards for your company, or how long your company's been in business, or God forbid, I've seen people put like pricing tables in there, right? Here's our pricing services for development shops or whatever it is. I mean, don't put any of those things in there. As soon as you do that, you're raising a red flag that, hey, this is a marketing or sales email.
Yeah, I think another thing I see people do is kind of in line with your, apologizing, but, oh, I would be so grateful or so thankful if you could, give me 15 minutes. Like, you want to feel like you're an equal to these people.
Yes.
Because that's how you want to be treated. But, a couple of other obvious red flags would just be like typos, bad grammar. I mean, make sure you don't have these things, especially when you're trying to send these to, people in like the C-suite. It's not going to go over very well.
Font type, size, and color. I've a lot. Comic Sans, which sounds funny, but it's not. I've seen them, right? People think they're going to stand out by sending some funky pink colored fonts or larger font or weird font types. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Just like a bunch of bold fonts or all
All
caps. I mean,
caps.
you
Yeah.
know, like these just are not professional.
So the next point about, the popular canned templates, this the problem with is if it's popular for a reason. It's popular for a very short period of time. So this is a perfect example of earlier, like we talked about that email where you're asking to be redirected inside the organization. Well, that worked really well 10 years ago before someone wrote a book about it and a million people read that book, right? And then other people went and built, kind of content businesses around, hey, here's some templates using that model of how to use social pressure to get people to introduce you inside an account. And those things work for a very short period of time. But then they don't. They burn out because people see them all the time. So you want to be careful when you see these. It's why you need to be careful of, hey, here's the perfect canned email response, or here's the perfect cold email template, or there's just no such thing. You can create an internal perfect template, but as soon as it's been published to the internet, as soon as it's published inside a book, as soon as other people are using the same thing, it's going to lose its efficacy.
Yeah, it's very similar to any sort of marketing tactic, right? Like what works for, the first 6 months to a year is just not going to continue to work at the same rate as, as more and more people adopt that strategy. So, these templates that we're rounding up or that you may have come across are essentially there to give you an idea, but ultimately you want to change that and adapt these things to your own situation. I mean, again, this is why we're putting this video together, because we want to help you understand the why behind it, not just here's an example that's worked really well.
So the call to action, this is, actually it's the most important part of the email from your perspective, not from the customer's perspective, but from your perspective. You need to ask you have to have the ask, right? You're never going to get if you don't ask. So the call to action, don't think of it as like a marketing call to action here. This is not, hey, go book a time with me, or hey, I'd love 15 minutes, or hey, I want to call you next week. Is Tuesday or Wednesday better? You want to have realistic expectations for the call to action, but ask it in such a way you can actually, you can feel like you're going to get a response. So if we're saying, we believe that the goal of a cold email is to start a conversation with someone. And if we're going to start that conversation to get them into our sales funnel eventually, then the way to start a conversation is ask an open-ended question, right? So you ask that question and, you use the QVC method, and then you follow that question up with another question, and that following question is the hanging question that you hope they reply to, right? And that's your call to action, right? Your call to action is you want a response to that final question you ask them, whatever it happens to be. And that's something, but there can be other things. You can ask them to download later in a sequence. Maybe you ask them to download something, or you direct them to a video to watch, or you direct them somewhere else, but that call to action needs to be clear, and it needs to offer value to them, and it needs to be something easy for them to do. All right. If you make it hard, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, and that's why I love to keep, at least the first email, I like to keep it within the email thread. Don't try to book a time. That's something I see very commonly. The other thing is just people close it extremely weakly. There is no clear call to action, right? So for me, like for lead views, for example, we've had success with, kind of closing an email out saying, are there any particular types of businesses that would make good clients for you? Are there specific types of leads that you'd be interested in, right? Like these types of questions are super easy to respond to. There's no commitment. And then those responses, the nice thing about a response, even if it's a no, go away, even though that doesn't, become a lead in your system, it's still somebody that responded. And so now you're showing engagement rates, which helps your future deliverability. Right. So you want to keep the response and the action within that email thread. And your goal is to get any response at all. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad, any response at all can help your future deliverability. All right. So when it comes to canned spam, this applies to anyone that you're emailing here in the United States. There's 7 kind of simple rules that you have to follow. And number 1, don't misrepresent who you are. Okay. Don't try to say you're Steve Jobs. Don't use misleading subject lines. So we talked about the different subject line options earlier. Identify the email if it's an ad. This is more for typically you see this in like e-commerce. Include your business address. So, oftentimes you'll see this in email marketing messages where the bottom or the footer of your email has your address and an unsubscribe link and everything. I just, from a cold email standpoint, because obviously you don't want to use an email marketing tool to send cold email, that doesn't come off personalized, and your open rates are going to be very, very poor. But I recommend just having your business address in your signature, because that is a natural place for it, and it doesn't seem like it's a weird placement. The next thing would be to give them an opt-out option, which does not mean it has to be an unsubscribe link. Okay, so I actually recommend in like a PS just having some note about, if you'd rather I not follow up, just let me know that. And, make sure that if they do follow up with you and say to remove, that you don't continue sending them future emails. Okay, you have to honor the opt-out. That's the sixth thing. And then lastly, if you use like a third-party consultant or service to send cold emails on your behalf, you are still liable for anything that they do. So, you want to make sure that you know what others are sending on your behalf.